The orchestra of the Chinese State Circus welcomes the Liverpool audience with a warm piece of traditional music. So this evening we're in Liverpool, one of the stops on the European tour of the Chinese State Circus. In that huge country, acrobatics have the same undisputed cultural status as other forms of entertainment, such as the Beijing opera, the theater, dancing, and so on. In China, there are about 100 different acrobatic groups, but only the best are authorized by the Ministry of Culture to represent their country abroad. For this reason, this evening, we shall be watching a show that combines extraordinary technical feats with delicate cultural nuances. An explosive conglomeration of colors, prowess, and exotica. And here, straight away, we have color, movement, rhythm, and somersaults. The first act to be presented tonight is a balancing act involving large banners. The large poles, balanced in thousands of different ways by these artistes, each weigh more than 50 kilos and are just large banners. Their weight and strange shape make these exercises extremely difficult to perform. China is divided into provinces. The artistes participating in this tour of the Chinese State Circus come from Manchuria, which lies northeast of Beijing. Balancing large banners, the act we're watching now originated in this area of the country. Absolutely brilliant. The colored fabrics that decorate the tops of these large poles are none other than the flags of Manchuria. Another testimonial that this show is brimming with elements of national culture. The performer coming into the center of the ring is wearing a different colored costume, black. This is because he plays a difficult part in this number. He's the strongest of the group. What's this exercise? Balancing something of that size on your forehead certainly takes some doing. Well done. Artists who practice this kind of act must combine the talents of jugglers and acrobats with those of Hercules on account of the considerable weight of these large banners. On one thumb. Now they're passing it from one forest to another. Really incredible. Watch out now, because to end the act, the large banner is balanced in the small of the back. And now the artists wave goodbye to the audience by displaying their flags. Well done. In the ring now is our friend Hong Chen, who presents a foot juggling number interpreted in the Chinese manner. Hong Chen is 31 years old, and she does with her feet what the previous artist did with his hands. This type of act also features in circuses in the West, but here and now it's done in a very original way, using objects that we find very unusual. The jar is in fact a rather common object. It only becomes unusual because of the way Hong Chen uses it. An excellent performance from Hong Chen. Now it's the turn of Li Wenxian, who specializes in rotating small canvas tapestries. The shape and substance of these tapestries make them very difficult to work with. In fact, soft objects are the most difficult to balance, but Li Wenxian seems to manage it quite well. 2 at a time now, balancing head downwards. Four at a time now. Hong Chen and Li Wenxian are both from Jilin, the second largest city in Manchuria, and unlike European performers in acts of this kind, are neither sisters nor related in any way. They were in the same class of the acrobatic school run by the Changchun acrobatic troupe. Well done, Hong Chen and Li Wenxian. The Chinese State Circus has decided to split up the various acts with small sketches, taken from Chinese stories and legends. This act is based on a historical event also performed by the Beijing Opera. It represents a certain Lady General, a heroine of the Song dynasty. These costumes are really unusual and make the whole show more fascinating and mysterious. The Lady General is the girl in the red costume, and she's busy defending our country from an attack by enemy soldiers. Just watch how this other warrior girl, played by the actress Guo Ping, manages to defend herself against the enemy's sticks. Truly outstanding. This interlude features the legendary figure of the pig, who appears as a comic character in Chinese legend. You'll see, in fact, that this friendly Chinese circus performer is practically on the saddle of a strange figure, half man, half piglet. The pig tries to win the love of the girl, and she asks him to carry her to a particular destination, but despite all this, the pig doesn't succeed in winning her affections. Whereas nearly all of the Oriental disciplines are typical of the East and originated there, this hilarious number featuring spinning plates is one of the few that the Chinese have imported from the West. Here's a strange exercise, balancing knives and forks and pieces of china. One of our friends is too hot, so he refreshes himself with a strange sort of fan. A member of the audience is hot too, so our friends run over to provide ventilation. The other spectator who wants to cool down a bit is too far away. Let's see how they do it. In actual fact, it's a double boomerang with some amusing properties. In this delightful display, the two merry chefs have to succeed in spinning 12 plates at the same time. Watch this. They really are too funny to watch. Here's another comical character, the county magistrate, who manages to be pompous and ridiculous at the same time. The curious hoop he's wearing is a decoration to draw attention to the fact that he's the man of the law. The show goes on with the Chinese state circus in the magical atmosphere of the Far East. In this performance, there are numbers you won't be able to see anywhere else. Here's one of the fastest, most spectacular acts in the whole show, jumping through hoops. To do these exercises, you don't only need to be agile, you need millimetric precision. Just watch. Now the exercise literally rises, making it even more difficult and spectacular. Excellent group work. And the last one, up you go, above the others. Four hoops now, one above the other. Each one more brilliant than the other. Brilliant. Here too, you'll notice the same harmony as we've seen in most of the Chinese acts. The energy that each acrobat must put into his jumps and the precision involved are balanced by the hoop, the perfect shape inside which the exercises find their apotheosis and catharsis. In addition to being formidable athletes, these artistes also know the human body perfectly from an anatomical point of view. They know what causes any little pains that may torment them and how to treat them. They also know how to practice massage to warm up their muscles. They may do this before an act or after a minor accident. Exceptional! A brilliant performance from our acrobats from the Changchun troupe. For the Chinese, walking on stilts is a national pastime and very popular at festivals and folk processions. In this case, the artistes are wearing typical Chinese costumes. Once again, ordinary everyday plates are transformed into an act that delights and surprises the audience. These girls with their spinning plates aren't an act in its own right. They provide a framework for the performance of a very young artiste. Here she is. She's called Kinesiska. She's only 15 and she began practicing at the age of 8. Kinesiska manages to bend herself into the most incredible positions while balancing pyramids of glasses on her hands and feet. Look at this. The Chinese and Mongolian contortionist schools are two of the most important in the world. All the best artists in this speciality come from these two nations. Verging on the impossible, Kinesiska balances 5 pyramids of glasses, one on each hand and foot, and even one on her forehead. To do this kind of exercise, you really need exceptional powers of concentration. Just think of having to stay in that position for so long. Well done, young Kinesiska. Here's another comical and entertaining interlude. This time it's an act adapted from the West, the Mirror Act. The master of the house has ordered the two servants to clean the mirror while he goes off to have a quiet drink. The mirror has shattered. Now, one of the artist's servants has to dress up, mimicking the master so well that he doesn't realize the mirror's been broken. The lengths he has to go to and the resulting effects are simply hilarious. Luckily, the fact is that the master is blind drunk, so he'll have some difficulty in realizing that the mirror isn't there any longer. Here, too, the whole number is performed in typical national costumes. Perfectly synchronized movements. Here's another group performance. Nearly all the members of the troupe of the Chinese State Circus are going to perform a very fast number involving acrobatics and pyramids. Flag acrobatics is always one of the most spectacular exercises to watch. The female members of the troupe certainly want to prove that they are by no means the weaker sex. we're watching a composition being performed by 24 people. They fill the ring. In every act so far, the Chinese performers in this period act have included something that has close links with their culture. In fact, some of the figures composed by the bodies of these athletes recall the ideograms meaning luck and prosperity. The Chinese State Circus show goes on here in Liverpool at a really dizzy pace. Another group act straight away, the bungee jumping act. The strength in the wrist of these boys is remarkable. Some communities have a tradition of jumping from great heights with a kind of rope tied round the wrist or the ankle. This act is inspired by such challenges of ability, taking advantage of the tremendous spectacle it provides. In China, the art of acrobatics is one of the people's favorite forms of entertainment. It has a long history, and distinct national styles have evolved, drawn both from daily life and from the work environment. In its very early days, this type of act was known as the act of 100 skills, indicating the number of different numbers that could be performed even then. In this case, the Chinese circus performer jumps and slides down from a height of more than 6 meters. Really an amazing demonstration of strength and courage. This figure, performed by 8 people, is really very fine. Well done. Wrestling is one of the most popular sports all over China. 2 hulky wrestlers here. Actually, there's a surprise in store for us in this wrestling match. Wait and see. Can you hear that strange sound, a sort of whistling noise? It comes from inside the hollow structure of these strangely shaped objects known as diabolos. The Diabolo was a very popular game in Europe too until the last century. It's a sort of large bobbin that rolls up and down a string attached to two wooden handles. In China, the game has been transformed into a circus act, and it's simply amazing what these girls of the Chinese State Circus get up to with them. We've already talked about the ancient origins of this spectacle. Apparently, just before the turn of the first millennium, the Emperor Wu used to welcome his foreign visitors with top-class acrobatic displays. 700 years later, Yang, an emperor of the Sui dynasty, brought these arts to perfection by laying on the display by more than 18,000 acrobats and musicians to celebrate the visit of a Turkish dignitary. The grace with which these girls accompany every movement is proof of the enormous amount of practice involved in the creation of every single act. Hours and hours of practice, not only of the various exercises, but also dances, bearing, and sometimes even acting. This exercise requires perfect coordination of the movements of all four performers. Absolutely delightful. free entrance of these artistes of the Chinese state circus heralds the arrival of three charming animals, the Chinese lions. Here they are. The lion dance is the most popular of all the dances imitating the movements of animals. In almost all forms of known tribal society, some members of the tribe would dress up in animal skins in order to evoke benign spirits. This circus discipline originates from that custom. The sphere held in the artiste's hands represents the world and has the power to attract the lion just as honey attracts bees. The lion is one of the most common mythological symbols in China, along with the dragon. It's associated with good luck, and there's often a lion at the entrance to key places such as temples and houses belonging to important people. Many acrobatic acts were conceived together with other great forms of popular entertainment, such as the Beijing opera, religious processions, folk dances, the martial arts, or puppet theaters. Almost all of these ended up by having a reciprocal influence on each other. Really delightful, this. And here are the lion cubs. Just watch this extraordinary number balancing on the globe. And here are our friends, who for a minute or two changed into lions. There's well-deserved applause for these young artistes from the Liverpool audience. This character is called the Lord of the Monkeys. According to Chinese legend, he had enormous powers. In this case, he has the power to introduce the next act, the Chair Pyramid Act. Apparently, for Chinese artistes, there are 4 fundamental exercises: the backwards bend, the somersault, the handstand, and the leg kick. Every acrobat must be able to do these 4 exercises well, especially the handstand. This is a discipline that has gradually developed over the years. Having begun as a simple handstand on the ground, it has developed to become one of the most spectacular numbers. And this act, which involves doing handstands on a balanced pile of chairs, is truly sensational. Just watch. One of the first historical references called the same type of exercise done with tables, the tables of Partava. Partava was a city somewhere in the east, but it goes to show how the vast scale of the nation stimulated competitiveness among different troops. These chairs, everyday objects once again, are very delicately balanced and could collapse at any moment. This is one of the reasons why the authorities insist on the use of the steel safety cable attached to the artiste belt to protect them from injury in case they fall. Chinese performers have impressed audiences all over the world with their skills. But it's always interesting to see acts of such a high level of ability. 7 girls performing handstands on the same number of chairs, piled one on top of the other. Absolutely mind-boggling. Very good performance indeed by the girls of the Changchun Acrobatics Troupe. This girl is wearing a beautiful costume from the Beijing Opera, which makes the atmosphere even more oriental. And now it's time for a juggler with some very unusual skills. Instead of juggling with balls, hoops and clubs, Chen Jiang does it with large Chinese vases. These are really exceptional performances. What we should remember anyway is that historical sources date the beginning of the Chinese art of acrobatics about 200 years before the birth of Christ. That is, almost 2,000 years ago. So we can say that it's a country with one of the most ancient circus traditions in the world. Furthermore, with the birth of the new China, the government decided to reunite all the wandering families of performers so as to form groups which, through a better coordinated effort, could, on the one hand, conserve important origins and traditions, and on the other, perfect their performances. It's thanks to all that we are watching such harmonious displays of skill. The large vase about to be used by the juggler at this point in the act weighs more than 10 kilos. As a result of the many hours of training involved, artistes who perform this act grow a sort of lump on their heads, like a little horn, which makes it easier to balance the heavy vases. Wow, perfect balance. Well done, Chen Jiang. These long, multicolored snakes are the famous Chinese dragons, mythological figures once again. They have incredible powers and bring good luck and prosperity. The performers of the Chinese State Circus say farewell to their audience in Liverpool and all round the world with this vaguely military parade. It's goodbye until we meet again.